The planted tank. It's amazing. It changed my life. It changed all of our lives. It's gonna change yours, right? Right? Wrong. The planted tank is a nightmare. No, I'm just kidding. It's great. Planted tanks have literally changed my life in so many ways. And not just that tank, or that tank, or that tank, or that tanks. That tanks. Anyways, how do you keep one? How do you make one awesome? It's pretty simple. When it comes to fish tanks, plants especially need four things. They need substrate, CO2, light, substrate, CO2, light, and what's the other one? Oh yeah, nutrients. Nutrients. Something that most people don't fuck with. It's a good idea not to fuck with that shit unless you're, pretty well advanced into the planet world. Because they don't really need, they need it, but they don't, require all the fancy nutrients that they try to sell you on. They need nutrients about as much as a skinny guy needs protein powder. Like, just fucking eat some. Anyways, besides those four things, you need good water. People don't realize this for some reason, but when you have shitty water, shit collects on the plants. Can you believe that? Shit will collect on the plant leaves and kill your plants slowly and painfully. Here's some things to watch out for when buying plants. Make sure that you buy an aquatic plant. All of these plants are living because they're aquatic plants. Some people at stores, like the one I used to work at, will sell bog plants. These are great plants for terrariums and fancy fish tanks that take plants out of the water. But they will die, or melt, as we like to call it, very quickly in an aquatic tank. But most people, I'd say 9 out of 10 people, don't have a tank or a fish tank that is meant for bog plants. And so people buy these fancy, beautiful plants, like the purple waffle, and they just watch them die because they're not meant to be fully submerged in water all the time, only partly submerged, or part of the time. So do yourself a favor and research your damn plants. Some plants like it a little colder than others. Wisteria, they like it really cold. Other plants, it depends. In most tropical plants, 78 is that ideal temperature. For most plants, above 78 degrees, they don't like it as much, and you won't see the great growth that you can see out of this tank like this one, for example. Personally, I love the idea of tanks with just a lot of greenery all over the place. That's why I don't really pay much attention to this tank as far as aquascaping or anything, because to me, I like a crazy jungle. I like a crazy, nonsensical madness. And I think the fish do too. It looks natural. It looks good because everything that's alive in there is alive because it survived based on the conditions it was presented. Some fuck didn't just go in there and cut up certain things to make certain things happen. It's not natural. You can go Asian garden style, that's fine. Personally, I hate Asians. I'm just kidding. I love Asian people. I love all people. I love everybody, especially fish. Fish are awesome, and they love plants. And you love fish, and you love plants, or at least you should, because if you don't, that's fucked. You sound like one of those people that eats fish. You would eat one of these little guys? One of these little babies? Look at them. Look at these little babies. They're so cute. And you'll eat them? You eat one of those motherfuckers? What the fuck is wrong with you? You don't see me go to your house and eat you. I'll be honest though, I like fish. They taste very good. Just not these kinds of fish. But it is nice to know that there's food nearby. I'm just kidding. Anyways, So when it comes to the four main things with plants, the number one thing is substrate. Unless you have a floating type plant or a weird ass plant, substrate, aka the soil or the gravel or dirt, whatever, will play a humongous role in how fast and how well your plant grows. If you want a tank that looks like this, you need like a couple inches at least of substrate. There might be like 3 or 4 in this one. And that other tank, this motherfucker, that thing gets as deep as like 8 inches at certain points. Is that necessary? What is necessary? What's really necessary in this world? Nothing. That's why monks are so happy. Anyways, the other important thing besides substrate, which anything works, personally I hate dirt because it's dirty, is light. Light is one of those things that people in the scientific world like to call limiting factors to growth for plants. The more light you have, the more light energy the plant can absorb and turn into size, gains, if you will. The more gains a plant has, the more happiness you have. So light is an awesome thing to invest in, but it can be the most expensive part of the whole thing. Personally, I have 2 different lights on this tank, 2 LED lights. And that brightness equals great growth, especially with that sage on the bottom. Really nice grass growth down there. It's getting better and bushier every day. Just like me. No, I'm just kidding. So besides light, you've also got nutrients. Plants need nutrients. Of course, most of them will get it from your substrate, which will include fish feces, decaying fish and carcasses, old plants that have died or withered away, and other things that are rotting down there. This will all transform into the wonderful foundation fertilizer that will make your plants amazing. You can also use dirt. Dirt's very nice for plant growth, but it's very dirty. Besides nutrients, light, and substrate, CO2 is absolutely essential for plant growth. Absolutely essential. Personally, I like to use fish as my CO2 source and like to have very still, quiet, non-moving water tanks to keep that CO2 in the water and increase the plant growth. If you have a lot of movement in the water, that CO2 is just going to evaporate right out of the water. Although that's probably the wrong word for that, and I apologize. So you don't need a CO2 reactor, but if you do get one, I assure you that your red plants will turn red and your other plants will grow like freaking bananas. But do you really want that? Do you really want a plant that grows so fast? Because you're going to have to cut that plant. And that means that you're killing that plant, or at least part of it. What are you going to do with that piece of plant? You're going to give it to your local fish store? They'll just laugh at you and then take your plant and ask you to buy stuff. They won't laugh at you. Anyways, besides those 4 important things, water, water is absolutely essential to the plant's longevity. If your water is clean, your plant will be clean. If you have nice helping guys on the plants, that will help as well. But if you have dirty water, shit will literally collect on the leaves, on the stems, and will kill your plant slowly and painfully. And then, are you any better than the Japanese during World War II with those horrible, horrible treatments of prisoners? Of course, most countries during war kind of did that, but anyways. I lost what I was saying. The important thing here, guys, is to take care of your plants with those 5 things. And as far as tank maintenance helpers, Siamese algae eaters are your best friend for planted tanks. So are Amano shrimp. So are dwarf orange lobsters or shrimp of other sorts. They'll clean your tank. They'll eat the dead plants. They'll eat the algae that likes to grow on plants. because without those guys, you're pretty fucked. It's very hard to keep a planted tank without some good tank cleaners. And I personally have like almost never maintained this tank, like at all. Probably like once in like the last 4 months. And by maintained, I mean I took some algae off the top and that's it. I like to top the tank off with water sometimes, but very rarely do I do anything else because there's very little to clean. And yeah, so get some plants, take good care of them, and watch more videos on my channel, the name of which I still haven't decided on, but you'll see. You'll all see.